Let's see how to interpret the implication A implies B. So the way we read this is if A, then B. So this is another way of reading this implication. And this is the logical operator that often feels the least natural at first. So let's interpret it using an example. So suppose that when I was 10, my father said to me, suppose that he said to me, if you mow the lawn, I will pay you $10. Okay? So let A be Raphael mows the lawn. So I'm Raphael. So let A be this proposition here. Let B be the proposition Dad pays $10. And so this statement is A implies B, right? And the question here, or the way to interpret this, is to ask, well, in which case did Dad lie, right? So out of all the possibilities that you can have for A and B, so A being true and B being true, and A being true, B being false, A being false, B being true, A being false and B being false, in which situation can I say that Dad lied, right? And so when he lied, we will say that the implication is false. And if he didn't lie, we will consider it true, right? Okay, so let's consider the first case. So the first row here. So suppose that A is true and B is true. So this means that Raphael mowed the lawn and Dad paid. So in that situation, did Dad lie? No, he didn't lie because he said that if I mow the lawn, he would pay, and he paid. So that means that the implication is true. Okay, let's look at the second row. So here, A is true and B is false. So Raphael mowed the lawn, but Dad did not pay him $10. So in this case, did Dad lie? So I would say that yes, Dad lied because he said that if I mowed the lawn, he would pay me $10. I did go and mow the lawn, but he didn't pay me $10. So in that case, he did lie, which means that the implication is false. Okay, let's see what happens for the other cases. So let's consider the third row where A is false and B is true. Well, in that case, Raphael did not mow the lawn, so I did not mow the lawn, but he paid me anyways. Did he lie? I would say no, because he said that if I mowed the lawn, he would pay me. He never said anything about what would happen if I didn't mow the lawn. So he just decided to pay me, and I guess that's good for me, but he didn't lie. There was no issue with what he said. So he didn't lie, and that means the implication is true. And finally, one that oftentimes can confuse people is what happens when both A and B are false. So Raphael did not mow the lawn and his dad did not pay him. Well, once again, Dad never said what he would do if the lawn is not mowed. So it doesn't really matter if he pays or not after that. He didn't break a promise. His only promise was on what happens when you mow the lawn. So if Raphael did not mow the lawn and Dad did not pay, he did not lie. And so this means that the implication is true. Okay, so in other words, the only way for an implication to be false is if, so something like A implies B is false, is if A is true and B is false. So just another comment here. So it's common that you will call A to be the hypothesis and B to be the conclusion. So this is generally when you write an if-then statement, this is the name of the part that comes with the if, hypothesis, then conclusion. And so once again, restating it, an implication is false only in the case where the hypothesis is true, but the conclusion is false. In every other situation, the implication will be true.